Hello, my name is Comrade Lee, and this is not another Marxist class video. This is just a video on the whiteboard explaining why does capitalism not work, right? What inherent thing within the capitalist system, what inherent structure makes it not work? We've seen the consequences of capitalism, and we know that's bad. We know starvation is bad. We know homelessness is bad, but we can't put two and two together. We don't understand what is the relation between the system of capitalism and the consequences of capitalism. And to see that, we have to understand what are the problems within the system, right? We have to understand that. And in this video, I'm going to propose three major problems within the system of capitalism. Obviously, they aren't the only problems. I'm just touching on a few of the major ones. There's a lot more, and perhaps more important than what I'm going to list here, but I think these are just really compelling. So that's why I'm going to be explaining them to you today. One, capitalism does not seek prosperity. It doesn't seek the well-being of the largest amount of people. It doesn't seek to meet their needs. It doesn't seek to help anyone. It's just a system that prioritizes the ruling class, prioritizes a small elite of people, the tippy top of the pyramid, the 1%, the bourgeoisie, whatever you want to call them. They're just rich people. They're land owning, they're corporation owning, they're shareholders, they're the Jeff Bezoses of the world. These people are known as the ruling class. They rule. They live off of the backs of the other classes. They get their wealth from the other classes, the proletariat, the working class, the 99%. So expanding capitalism in its most purest form seeks to expand the interests of capital. It seeks to expand profit for this ruling class, and it even seeks to eat parts of its own ruling class to make the ruling class even smaller. My dog's barking, so if he barks again, I'm going to show him to you guys, okay? If he barks one more time, I'm showing him to you guys. But anyways, we're often told this myth that capitalism seeks, pulling yourself up by your bootstraps, doing your own hard work, making your own genuine fortune for yourself, hard-earned property, hard-earned wealth is what capitalism allows you to create. But really, that's not what capitalism's intent is. It's kind of sneaky in this remark, where it seeks to expand for the smallest amount of people. It seeks to impoverish the largest amounts of people so that, what? So that a few billionaires can get a few extra bucks. That's why I'd argue that capitalism isn't really successful in, the Nordic models of country, because that's, social democracy. That isn't capitalism. It's capitalism with training wheels. So you don't see the horrible problems that the actual capitalist system creates. You see the benefits of socialism within a capitalist model. So there's still inherent flaws within the capitalist model, but you get some of the benefits of socialism. You get free healthcare. You don't have to worry if you're gonna starve. I'd argue that real capitalist countries are countries where capitalism has prevailed, has become dominant, where the ruling class lives in absolute bourgeois luxury, while the rest of the population lives in struggling poverty. That's what capitalism seeks to do. So the real capitalist countries are India, are the Philippines, are these really impoverished nations, these poor nations. They're not poor nations. Their wealth is just owned by a few ruling elite who don't want to share. So capitalism is not prosperity. He barked again. I'm going to show him to you guys now. Wait 1 second. Say hi to everybody. He's communist, by the way. Oh, he looks so scared. He's scared. He's camera shy. I'll put him down. My second point is that private property is inherently theft. Whoa, 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 Comrade Lee. I thought private property was the basis of all personal freedom, right? I get to own my house. I get to own my car. No, 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 no. That's not the kind of private property that communists want to take away. They want to take away factories, farmlands. They want to take away things that are purely used for profit, that are privatized for profit. And in a sense, private property is not the things you personally owned, it's the things you own foreignly for profit. Well, not foreignly speaking in nations, but in like a domestic sense. But why is private property theft? Well, one, because there's no possible justification for you owning private property. One man owning a factory full of a ton of workers who work at the factory, what does he also own in that transaction? He also owns the labor of the people in those factories. So what does he do? He decides their wages. He says, well, your wage is $14 an hour because that's minimum wage. And in this, he also decides to take some of their wealth, their value that they created within the factory for himself. Without doing any work himself, he manages to extract value in that relationship. And it's all because of private property. You, as the factory owner, has to pay the factory worker less than what he actually makes in order for you to make a profit. And that's what the whole system is centered around, profit. And also things like basic needs. Your house, food, a car, basic needs, things you need to survive. Being private property is genuinely dystopian and insane. Having to pay someone to be alive, that's a horrible idea. Whoever came up with that, we'll never know. And my third and final point is pretty obvious. The whole system is centered around one thing. The whole system of capitalism is all for this right here. Profit. Nothing else. It's not centered around something like, human need. It's centered around profit. It wants to make money. We've all known that greed is a bad thing, but that's the whole idea of capitalism, is greed. So in a sense, if you're religious, you should also be anti-capitalism, I guess, because the whole system is centered around greed. And there's horrible consequences when you only focus on profit and not basic human need. You cause starvation, you cause homelessness, you cause horrible issues because basic needs are seen as private property and then thus something to profit off of and not something to use to genuinely benefit humankind. So we can take these issues and then we can... What's the solution? I'm not going to say the solution's pure communism. I'm not going to say the solution is socialism. I'm going to answer these questions with a reasonable solution. I'm not going to plunge my ideology into this. It's purely about what is a better system, okay? So one, capitalism does not mean prosperity. The obvious answer to this question you can make is make something a little bit more merit-based. You get what you contribute, right? So in that way, you work hard and then you get what you contribute. You get the value that you put in to the factory, to your workplace, in an equal amount of money, of resources, of whatever. Make it so that you can legitimately pursue that good old American dream. You can make a life for yourself by working hard. Number two, private property is inherently theft, right? So what do we do then? We abolish private property. And then again, private property is nothing that nobody watching this video owns, unless you just happen to be a landlord. Because private property is something you own for profit. And a lot of people watching this don't own anything for profit. It's essentially already been eliminated for the vast majority of people in our society. And also just ensure basic needs to everybody, so that nobody has to pay money to survive. But what, Comrade Lee? There's an inherent contradiction within the system. If you just give people what they need to survive, they won't work at all. Ah, but there's a merit system, right? You get paid based on what you contribute, right? That is your motive to work. That is your inherent systematic motive to work. If you give people what they need to survive, they don't just stop working. They go and they pursue their luxuries. They pursue that new purse that they wanted, that new cow that they wanted for some reason. When you have your basic needs become a whole lot less important, right? They're already insured to you. You don't have to worry about that. So what becomes more important to you, what becomes the thing you work for, is those luxuries, is those things that you want and things that you don't necessarily need. Number 3, the system is centered around profit. Well, what's your logical conclusion to this? Make a system centered around human need. I need this to survive. So guess what you get? Exactly that, because you need it. And common prosperity for all people. Building a better society for all men and women to live happily in, or whatever you consider yourself. And that's all I wanted to say today. So, goodbye, and go get 'em.